Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. Robert Tracy. I'm a professor of art and architecture history at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, USA. I'm a performance artist collaborating with the chair of the dance department at UNLV, or University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Louis Kavouras. Louis is a principal dancer with the Eric Hawkins Dance Company in New York City. He's also a professor of dance at UNLV. I curated several exhibitions of the featured artist in this uploaded digital file, Gig Depio. Gig is a painter whose studio currently is in Las Vegas. He was born and raised in the Philippines, Manila, and this particular painting that we are focusing on is called Rewriting Barry. The painting currently is in the Three Works Gallery in Scarborough, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. It's been there since the fall of 2019. Our intention before the COVID-19 pandemic was to have the painting transferred from the Three Works Gallery to the venue in Galway, Ireland, and have it installed in the room, or at least on the campus of the venue in Galway for our presentation. So those who were in attendance would be able to see the painting in actuality. What Louis does is he listens to my ideas over lunch or Starbucks, discussions we have on campus, and he tells me, I can translate those ideas into movement. I can make that into modern dance. And over the years, probably 10 or 12 now, we've developed a series of performance pieces where I write the text and put together the visuals, and Louis transforms the ideas of the text into modern movement and composes the music. So what you are seeing is a project that we call the Gig Depio Galway project. It was accepted in the summer of 2019. It was supposed to be performed live in Galway in the summer of this month, this June. But because of the pandemic, we are transforming and translating the live performance piece into digital imagery. So we transitioned in March to digital. There are 5 short films, 2 of which are being uploaded in addition to this introduction by myself. It's a live performance piece that is now translated into a digital form because of having to adjust to the pandemic. The second film that you'll see, part of this overall project, is what we call Layer 2. It is a piece that has repetition. All 5 short films have repetition, as you will see 2 of them. This one we entitle In Dark Times We Begin to See. The idea here is that Depio's methodology of how he paints his compositions is very repetitive. He does a lot of research. He looks at a lot of primary sources to get his information. In this case, the quest for sovereignty of the Philippines, the Philippine archipelago, who had been colonized in the 18th and part of the 19th century by Spain and England, and they were trying to get their sovereignty back. So the repetition involves his process of painting. He does tremendous research, and then his ideas start to form as he explores the fiction and the nonfiction of the theme that he's working on, in this case, Philippine identity. And he translates it into sketches on a very, very large canvas. It's actually made up of 9 panels, and those panels together, stitched together, become billboard size. So he puts the drawings on first, his initial compositional sketches in pencil. Then he comes back with the brush and the palette and meticulously and very methodically paints the minutia of his designs. So the repetition involves identity, involves a sense of scratching and making marks on the surface of the canvas with the brush and the pencil. His background, born and raised, educated in Manila. His father was a painter, his mother is a filmmaker. His interest in the studio comes from his father. His interest in scale comes from the cinematic, filmic background of his mother. This is a piece that he had realized after seeing the movie Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick, reading the story of Barry Lyndon in Thackeray's book. He realized that as a Philippine, he did not want to stay silent anymore. He wanted to offer his own interpretations as an artist and a Philippine artist. So he's no longer dwelling in silence. His studio is active. He painted this in 2019, started to show it in the fall of 2019. Some of it is fiction, most of it is nonfiction, most of it is based on his research and his own background and experience, hearing stories of these quests for sovereignty by the Philippine nation itself. Layer two, in dark times, we begin to see Depio's latest painting, entitled Rewriting Barry, fleshes out the artist's recurring themes of humanity, of destiny, and the truth of life's emotional identities. In dark times, we begin to see Philippine distinctiveness. For Depio, national identity is the sum of many parts, parts that are both good and bad, parts within the aesthetic structural reverberations of theater and cinematography. In dark times, we begin to see Depio's recent painting, Rewriting Barry, links the artist's familial background of the Philippines with the British invasion of Manila of 1762, also known as the 7 Years' War. In dark times, we begin to see Depio inspired by cinematographer Stanley Kubrick, of specific interest with Kubrick's vision and interpretive revision of William Makepeace Thackeray's period novel, The Luck of Barry Lyndon, resulting in the cinematic painting Rewriting Barry. In dark times, we begin to see the artist's insightful and engaging reinterpretation of Thackeray's and Kubrick's Barry Lyndon. In this painting, the artist explored the history and philosophy of the Philippine journey, a journey fighting to recover national sovereignty after defeating both Spain and England. In dark times, we begin to see the black, the empty, the uncovered, the ravaged soul of a Philippine artist no longer dwelling in silence, unified within a theater of careful observation, focused observation allied with Depio's strong compositional sense. In dark times, we begin to see the unscrupulous Irish rogue Redmond Barry Lyndon, journalistically observed by Thackeray as a satirical miscreant who makes his way in the world by conning others. Sound familiar? In dark times, we begin to see Thackeray's penchant for characters closely observed and recognized. This author's affinity betrays an obsession for observed feeling and thought, everyday life populated by unsavory types perfectly suited for fiction. But Depio's Rewriting Barry isn't fiction. Layer five also uses repetition. In this case, the phrase memory, a moment, a scene, a fact is a form of storytelling. Gig Depio uses storytelling tremendously in these 9 paintings. He's talking about the quest for sovereignty. He uses memory, he uses firsthand resources. He transforms that into a theater of history. It's cinematic in scale, it's filmic in scale. Each panel is part of a maelstrom of stories. There's a tremendous amount of information locked into each of the 9 panels, and those 9 panels are stitched together into one very, very large canvas. The stories involve a vast number of people who you see represented in the canvas. They act as actants or surrogates. They fill in parts of the story, the narrative that Jig is working on. In essence, this entire painting, the effort behind it, my paper, Lewis's music and choreography, is a response to Gig Depio's eyes, that he turned his gaze to the Philippines' quest for sovereignty. He turned his gaze to the story of that quest to drive the Spanish and the English out and to build their own identity. And he was willing to spend the time, the energy, turned his gaze for over probably 2 years of research and then finally developing the composition and painting so that the story can be out in another form. It's out in book from Thackeray. It's also in film, the Kubrick, Barry Lyndon, and now it's in a very large painting called Rewriting Barry. Layer 5, memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. To Gig Depio, Rewriting Barry is a theater of history. This theater of history focuses on the Spanish and British, global colonization reaching to dominate over sovereignties, particularly sovereignty of the Russian archipelago. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio states the female on the horse is Gabriela Salong. Gabriela is the widow of Philippine rebel Diego Salong. Diego was killed following the Treaty of Paris. Gabriela fought with the native rebels until caught and hanged. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio's Rewriting Barry is a 9-panel maelstrom of stories, revised on a scale that incorporates a cinematic manner, akin to filmmaking, whose complete control over all elements of the creative process becomes both a personal and uniquely stylistic stamp. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio starts his cinematic vision through a myriad of sketches. These sketches help instigate an image in the mind's eye. The image forming in the artist's eyes become actants, surrogates for the storytelling who coalesce in Depio's conversation and composition. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Sketches are executed directly onto the individual canvas panels. Next, Depio loads up his brush and strokes the surface with sharp, defined dabs of paint, the direct inverse of a woodcut. The artist's strong graphic element is both refreshing and solidly filmic in nature. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. As a contemporary artist active in the post 9/11 era, Depio vivifies the role of a painter who rejoices in being out of step with his professional brothers or sisters. But there is no better way for this artist to communicate his painterly illustrative message. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio found the aesthetic stimuli for his narrative within the tensions inherent in his choice patterns of recounted chronologies, non-fictive accounts of the female heroine Gabriela Silong, poised on her horse, inspiring her rebels to charge forward toward the bigger picture. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Little things in the 7 Years' War suddenly thrilled Depio. The artist's eyes wandered through the maze of research, gathering experiential knowledge, recognizing that contemporary life continues to evolve. Depio engaged in revisions associated with the English-Spanish global domination. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Separately, the 9 panels, which constitute Rewriting Barry, combine to form a seemingly incongruous combination of thematic motifs, pastiche of disorientation, disenfranchisement, and disinformation of Philippine identity, tearing into cultural mores and progressive idealism of global domination efforts. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Rewriting Barry, narrative is a theater of history. The 9 separate panels exist not alone, but as a greater hyper illusion, an illusion to entities that are so vast, so large against time and space, an enormity which the audience struggles to grasp. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. The filmic panel, where Stanley Kubrick directs a narrative passage, shapeshifts to become both a headstone of the narrative, as well as a wedge to prod and control each viewer's perspective, to better grapple with the thematic accelerant that is global domination. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio used birds to pretend the growing phenomena of accelerated immigration, the explosive gathering of different races amid a diversity of cultures at the time of the 7 Years' War, brilliantly stitched together as a 9-panel painting. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio's use of the term stitching together references installing the 9 panels as one, which constitutes the scale of rewriting Barry. Is most opportune as the artist preserves the integrity of the 7 Years' War narrative, even though it is cinematically dissected into 9 separate panels. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Depio journaled that his creative process in rewriting Barry focused on conjuring in his mind a shape of movie, an image of the 7 Years' War before attempting to approach the canvas. This conjuring process felt right to the artist as he continued to use it on all subsequent panels. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. The entity of rewriting Barry's canvas surface is covered with jabs of the brush, which Depio integrates as a source of visual nervousness and halting energy, akin to the British initial arrival Manila Bay during bad weather that necessitated some fancy, crazy maneuvering just to anchor. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. Historically, Depio found in his research that this anchoring maneuver was nothing more than a pretext to buy time for the invading British fleet. The British sent a message saying they were seeking repairs and provisions, when in actuality, they were strategically preparing to destroy the big Bolivarista cannons. Memory, a moment, a scene, a fact, is a form of storytelling. There's a plethora of research material available regarding the 7 Years' War, a volume of detail so vast that the artist lamented he couldn't possibly put it all in one painting. He also realized he had enough visual images he could make a series of other paintings. Such a series would be able to more adequately summarize the events for the Philippine identity. Memory, a moment, a fact, a scene, is a form of storytelling. Forming the filmic image in the artist's mind enabled Depio to view this amount of material information, as vast as it was, from sketching to painting on 9 panels of canvas. These 9 panels come together to shed new light on the inconsistencies of the dark. In dark, we begin to see. There's a role of the artist to take whatever it is they believe in and put it out there so the public will see it. In dark times, we begin to see. We hope you enjoy the 2 layers of 5 that are being uploaded to this particular site. Thank you for joining and thank you for watching.